Good evening and welcome. This is the December 10th, 2025 public hearing of the Land Use Commission. The City Code directs this body to hear applications for map and text amendments, special uses, including plan development, zoning relief, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator, as well as to make recommendations regarding the city's long-term planning goals and objectives. Depending on the type of matter, this commission will either make a final determination or send its recommendation to the City Council. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aravallo, Commissioner Berlin, Commissioner Harris-Ferry.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Mabadi,
Here.
Commissioner Mangum,
Here.
Commissioner Murdenchev,
Here.
Commissioner Puctel, and Chair Lindwall.
Here. With 5 members present, we have a quorum. Also present tonight from city staff are Neighborhood and Land Use Planner Megan Jones, Senior Planner Sam Hubbard, and Assistant, Jeremiah Bebo, whatever your title is, Development Services Manager, and Assistant City Attorney Kathy Penrose. This is a formal hearing, and there are rules that govern our proceedings. Most importantly, only one person speaks at a time so that all testimony may be recorded accurately. Anyone who wishes to address the commission regarding any matter on tonight's agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Our procedure is to hear from staff on the documents on file and then receive testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. The applicant is asked to limit his presentation to 20 minutes, although shorter presentations are appreciated. Following the applicant's presentation, commissioners may ask questions about the proposal and the standards for approval. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to commissioner questions. After that, persons wishing to make a statement regarding the matter will have a chance to do so. Any person with a legal interest in property located within defined notification requirements of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to questions. I'd like to remind everyone to focus their testimony on the application that is before us this evening and the text amendment and special use standards that the Land Use Commission must consider in making our recommendation to the City Council. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then the Commission will close the record and begin deliberations to consider the standards. The Commission will make formal findings of fact based on the testimony and evidence presented, guided by the standards, the Commissioner's knowledge of our community, and recommendations of staff. Testimony is taken under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony to the proposal as it relates to the standards contained in the zoning ordinance and corresponding staff memorandum. When testifying, please state your name and address for the record and sign in on the provided public comment sheet. Our meetings are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you are at a microphone when asking questions or making statements so that you can be properly recorded. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. I think the only hearing we have on is for 824 Gaffield, and I presume the applicant is present. All right, thank you. If you're planning on speaking on a matter before the commission tonight, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? All right, thank you. All right. Yes. I'll note for the record that Brian Johnson has joined us. So we now have 6 commissioners present. The first item on our agenda is approval of the meeting minutes of September 24th and October 8th. May I have a motion with respect to the minutes of September 24th?
I move that we accept the September 24th meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I noted that there are a couple of corrections that need to be made. I think I have all of the places, but on page, there are several places where Heartwood is misspelled. It's Heartwood and not Hartwood. That include the places I saw are on page 12. Alicia Pullett in the second line of her comments. Also on page 16, in the first, when we're going through the standards, in the first line on page 16, and then also under standard 4, it's misspelled. I think that's all I caught. Does anyone else have any issues with that? All right. Can we take a vote on? So this is just a voice vote, right? Okay, so all in favor of approving the September 24th minutes as corrected? We say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay.
Abstention.
Two abstentions, Commissioner Magnum and Commissioner Johnson. Okay, with respect to the minutes of October 8th, you have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the October 8th meeting minutes.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay. Any corrections to those minutes? Not. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, Commissioner Johnson abstains. All right. We have really two matters on our agenda this evening. Old business relates to review an update of the Land Use Commission rules and procedures, and the other involves 824 Gaffield Place. There's a zoning text amendment as well as a special use approval. So I would suggest that we reordered the agenda to take the new business first. Could I have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to take the new business first.
All right, second?
Second.
Okay, does that need a roll call, or is that, okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So, I guess at this point, would staff read the items into the agenda, the record? And I presume what I'd like to suggest we do, since it's related to the same property, that we hear the case together, but we'll have to take separate votes on the text amendment and the special use, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. Yeah. So you'll be hearing case number 25 PLND-0049 for the text amendment, and case 25 ZMJV-0046 for the special use. So Karen Croteau, the applicant on behalf of Hope Ignites Chicago, formerly Boys Hope, Girls Hope, requests an amendment to the zoning code, section 6443, to modify the distance requirement for child residential care homes in the R4A zoning district, in conjunction with the request for a special use to allow a child residential care home, section 6-8-6-3 at 824 Gaffield Place. Approval of both requests would allow the establishment of an 8-girl child residential care home on the subject property which is located in the R4A zoning district. The requested special use was originally granted in 2020, but expired on January 1 of this year, since the use was not yet established on the property. Per section 6348 of Title VI, whenever a petition for a special use is filed in conjunction with the petition for an amendment to the zoning ordinance, such applications may be combined and reviewed simultaneously. The Land Use Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council, the determining body for this case, in accordance with Section 6-3-5 of the Evanston zoning ordinance. The PIN number for the subject property is 1107-121-010-0000.
Okay. Anything else to add at this point? No. All right. I'll invite the applicant to come up and present your proposal.
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. Sam, am I clicking or are you clicking? Oh. Okay. With this?
Yes.
Okay, we'll give it a go. So thank you. I'm Karen Croteau, the president of Hope Ignites Chicago, and as Sam said, we're formerly Boys Hope, Girls Hope. We changed our name 6 months ago for many reasons, but it's caused a little bit of confusion as name changes have. So thank you for having us here today. Evanston has always been a community who has wrapped their arms around our scholars. And we are grateful that Evanston welcomed us as neighbors 45 years ago when Hope Ignites, then Boys Hope, was first founded in Illinois. And we look forward to continuing this wonderful partnership. I must pause here in light of the events of the last 5 years and say that thanking you for being good to our scholars is not just me being polite. Our scholars are 100% children of color, and as we all know, the world can be a dangerous place for our kids to simply walk around in. Evanston has always been a very safe place for our scholars. They ride their bikes around, they go get ice cream on a hot summer day, and love being a part of the community, and we don't need to worry about their safety. So thank you from the bottom of our scholar hearts for being a city that embraces children of color. We're very eager to be a good neighbor, and we're sorry that we are back here again after 5 years. We undertook a very big project which involves improving and fully renovating 4 of our homes, and raising the funds and lining up all the details has been a worthy but time-consuming project, and I'll go in some more details on this. Okay. Hey, look at that. All right. So Hope Ignites is a competitive scholarship program serving children who are academically motivated and capable but lack economic resources. We accept children as young as middle school and support them through high school, college, and into career entry. So one of the things that makes us unique is we're supporting these kids for 10 years and sometimes more. And when our kids become alums and need us, we're there for them as well. I will expand on our structure later in the presentation, but for now, Hope Ignites truly supports the whole child with wraparound services. Homes, not dorms, social emotional support through our partner Family Service Center, wholesome food, medical support, and an outstanding education from middle school through college. So why are we here? We were granted a special use permit for 824 Gaffield Place in 2020, which expired before we could complete the many steps involved in a comprehensive renovation. We needed to raise $5.4 million, and we also inherited renters, Northwestern students, and we wanted to honor their lease, which was for 2 years. We're all about education, and not having their college education disrupted by having to move was important to us, so we wanted to be good landlords. Acquiring 824 Gaffield Place is part of a larger strategic initiative called More Hope, and we have 3 goals. We are doubling the number of girls that we serve by adding a second girls' home. We relocated all of our homes to the same street on Gaffield for greater collaboration and stronger community among staff and scholars. and we're renovating all the homes to update mechanicals, improve the living environment, and increase curb appeal, because we do like to be a good neighbor. The undertaking of this required significant planning and fundraising, and of course, capital campaigns and renovation planning take a while. But I'm proud to say we've hit our $5.4 million capital campaign goal, and our architect builder is moving forward. We've already renovated one home completely, 823 Gaffield, and actually we've completed renovations on 2 homes. 820 Gaffield was a lighter project. And our renters have graduated and moved out. So we're ready to move forward. So what do? We serve our scholars in our 3 homes, providing a private school education at our 3 partner schools, St. A's, Loyola Academy, and Regina Dominican. And each home has 8 scholars and 3 full-time residential counselors. Our scholars are monitored 24/7, and the scholar day is very structured. Our scholars are up at 5:30 in the morning and out the door and headed to the train by 6:30. They have their school day, they participate in extracurriculars, and then the schedule in the evening works like clockwork. They have dinner every evening at 5:30, chores at 6:30, and study hall from 7 to 9 p.m. And 10 p.m. is bedtime. So this schedule has been the same for many decades because it works really well. Our alumni always talk about the benefits of structure and how they've taken that into their lives and used it to be successful college students and successful adults. But we run our homes like a healthy family. And more accurately, we are a healthy, wholesome family. And if you peek into our windows any evening at 5:30 p.m., we're all around the dinner table having dinner together as a family. Okay, so we're going to show you a short video that highlights what we do and what our plan is. Boys Hope, Girls Hope is a privately funded residential scholarship program that nurtures academically capable, highly motivated young people in persistent need to meet their full potential through middle school, high school, college graduation, and career launch. Boys Hope, Girls Hope sets high expectations and provides the resources and opportunities necessary to meet them. Family-like group homes, excellent college prep schools, work experience, medical care, therapeutic counseling, tutoring, service opportunities, college scholarships, internships, and support every step of the way.
Boys Hope Girls Hope has taught me how to be more individual and has taught me how to grow and just be like more organized with like what I'm doing.
It's given me like a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I would have stayed at home.
I never thought I could have gotten this far without the help.
We stick together. We are sisters.
More Hope for many years. In November 2018, the governing board and the staff came together for a long strategic planning retreat, and it was then that the seeds of More Hope were planted. What is More Hope? More Hope is our vision for the future with 3 exciting goals. More young women, adding a second girls' house. More program infrastructure. After 40+ years of teenage living, it's time for renovating and updating. More community, creating a campus with all 4 homes on one street so scholars and staff can come together for family nights, dinners, campfires, carpooling, and much, much more. We have already made great progress on More Hope, our strategic plan for growth. In August 2020, we closed on 820 Gaffield Place, and renovations are complete. This home will eventually be the girls' home. In August 2023, we closed on 824 Gaffield Place, right next door. Over the next few years, we will renovate 823 and 827 Gaffield, using 820 as temporary housing during renovations. Once 823 and 827 renovations are complete, we will sell the girls' home on Hinman. Next up for renovation is 824. Once completed, we will fill the house with 8 additional girls over the next 3 years. Then we will celebrate the grand opening of the Foglia Family Boys Hope, Girls Hope campus.
I feel like boys often have like a greater opportunity to like achieve success in life than girls. So I think that doubling our numbers would be very helpful in like minority communities like us.
What do you think about renovating the houses?
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we should.
Yes, please.
Boys Hope, Girls Hope has big dreams, and while we work toward these dreams, we continue to do the daily, very important work in supporting our scholars. We are grateful to all of our supporters who make up the Boys Hope, Girls Hope family. Thank you for all that you do to make our scholars' dreams of college graduation and career opportunities come true.
So my name is Jennifer O'Shaughnessy. I'm the Vice President, Boys Hope, Girls Hope. Hope Ignites Chicago is our new name. We would never have embarked upon the capital campaign and the purchase of 824 Gaffield if we hadn't had the special use permit in hand. So you can see as you look through the packet, the previous owner of 824 Gaffield, Barbara Allen, helped us sponsored that special use permit the first time around because we're quite conservative and thrifty in our use of our money, and we certainly wouldn't have purchased a house only on the hope that we could get a special use permit. And so we really are here today, both apologetic that it expired in this interim and surprised that in the interim the new rule came into effect, limiting the distance between child residential care facilities. Obviously, that wasn't in place in 2020. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about how we fit in the community. Oh, sure. We feel like this is a fairly low impact use. There were 9 undergrads living in the house before with their pong table and their beer cans, and we are just 8 kids and 3 adults, more like a regular family. We don't bring any additional traffic to the neighborhood. The kids don't have cars. They take public transportation to school. The house would have 2 program vans, but we've got 4 garage spaces and a pretty extensive driveway, so we wouldn't need to park on the street. We don't burden the utilities. The kids are not kids who've been in trouble in any way. They're academically motivated, hoping for a path to college. So we don't have issues with the police or ambulances or, any of that kind of things you might have in a group home for folks with disabilities or something like that. So mostly I'm just happy to answer any questions you have about our proposal. We are hoping that you are willing to renew the special use permit that we were originally granted with this narrow exception to the distance rule that would, it shouldn't apply really to very many other people, just to someone else who had a permit in hand before the rule was changed.
Questions from commissioners?
Oh, that's what it looks like now. So we are beautifying the neighborhood. That's 823 Gaffield, right across the street. The boys just moved into it last weekend. So it's really quite exciting for them to be living in a place with new HVAC, new appliances, new flooring, everything. So, and our plan for, you have the clicker? You want to go back to across the street so we can show 824? Yeah, so 824 Gaffield would be this house on the right. We own 820, and so it would have a significant exterior upgrade as part of this process. Right now, it has pretty dilapidated stucco, and we would be patching and repainting that and renovating the front porch.
Okay. Questions? Commissioner Johnson.
I just have a question about the transportation. So the students aren't allowed to own cars?
No, and all of the kids in our program are from families living at or below the poverty level. So besides not having access to a car on that basis, they would not be allowed to bring a vehicle to the houses. Once in a while over the 45-year history, somebody's worked a summer job and gotten their hands on a car, and they cannot bring it to the houses.
And you mentioned they take public transit, but they go to Loyola and Regina.
They do.
So they get on the Purple Line and go where?
They do. They they catch the Pace bus that goes right down Lake Street and actually drops off half a block north of Regina, and then drops them off directly in the Loyola parking lot. Twice every morning and twice every afternoon, the Pace bus goes into the Loyola parking lot, picks up kids and brings them back to the Metra and the L train in Wilmette.
Okay.
And so it's kind of interesting when, other kids who go to Loyola from the neighborhoods these kids grew up in, like from the west side and south side of the city, sometimes they're riding public transportation up to 2 hours to get to that stop in Wilmette. And so our kids really, sometimes they'll have a friend from elementary school or a cousin or somebody who's doing this. And one of the things we really are doing is giving them proximity, in addition to the safety and just the fun of living at Evanston, having access to the beach and the parks and things, just being able to get to and from school easily is really an important piece of this program.
And they live there year-round?
They do.
Even when school's out?
Even when school's out. So in the summer, our younger kids, if we have kids in elementary school, and freshmen go to summer school at Loyola or Regina. If they are not in summer school, they work. So we've had kids work at the Wilmette Park District. We've had kids working at Cold Stone Creamery. We've got a bunch of kids in the Caddy program at the Evans at Canal Shores, which is wonderful. That's a great pipeline for them to a college scholarship through the Evans Scholarship Program. So yeah, they're busy in the summer. They take sailing lessons at Gilson Park. They're busy, but yeah, they do. And we're not meaning to interfere with their relationships with their families. So over the course of the school year, they go home about 2 weekends a month, but not quite that often. And they do go home over holidays and things if they have a home to go home to.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Mabadi.
What about the high school? Do they go to the high school?
They don't. When this program began, it was specifically written into the ordinance that allowed for this child residential care facility that they would not attend Evanston Public Schools. So we have never made that request. Even though at various points we've had the school, when we've become friendly with superintendents and teachers, they'll say, why don't they come to the school? They're great kids. We'd love to have them. But I think, you can't come to town and live in a dorm to go to Evanston High School as much as people would like to. So no, they go to Loyola and Regina and to St. A's. And those schools split the tuition with us. Otherwise, we could not afford it. But
Thank you.
Any other questions? So the goal is to have 16 boys and 16 girls. Is that
yes,
essentially?
Absolutely. So, this started in St. Louis with a Jesuit high school. It was a boys' school. That was the genesis of this whole thing. And so when it came here, initially it was a boys' program. The girls have been, I think we're on our 26th year with the girls on Hinman. And that Hinman neighborhood has been wonderful. You'll see the letter from Greg Miller in your packet. He's been their next door neighbor for a long time. Wonderful folks. So we're a little sad to potentially leave Hinman, if this all works out well. But I think the economies of scale and just the community and having the kids and our team all in one place will be a good thing.
Are you looking to expand further anytime?
No.
This is it?
In fact, it took us all this time to sort of put a plan in place to expand at all. I mean, you can imagine this is an expensive program, right? The run rate on one of these houses is $250,000 a year or so. We're completely privately funded. No, we're not getting Social Security or government money of any kind. So we're raising every dollar every year, which is part of why we had such an aggressive fundraising goal before we grew, because we are partially endowing the ongoing operation of an additional house. So we'll still have, how these organizations work. We'll still have a golf tournament and a gala and individual donors, but we'll be able to pull more from our endowment to fund that fourth house. So that's why that fundraising number was so high, the 4 renovations plus partial endowment.
So one other question, when do you expect to have all 4 homes humming along, all done, going?
That's a great question. So our architect, we just got the building permit for 827 Gaffield, and so that is just about to be demolished on the interior. It took us an extra week or two to get the DCFS permit for the kids to move back into completely remodeled 823. So that's ready to go. And what our architect has offered us, which is part of why time is of the essence here, is if we can do 823 and 827 essentially simultaneously. By the way, is it confusing that I'm just calling them by the addresses? Okay. If we can do those simultaneously, we have a potential savings of more than $200,000 on the combined. So we're really hoping that both of those can get going. And we didn't realize we had this permit problem until our architect went to the city with the construction plans, and we realized that this had expired. So
would you say by next fall? Or are you looking at 27 as having all 4 houses up and running?
I think next fall.
We're gonna.
Could you speak into the mic just?
So we will be done with renovations in, I would say, probably a year, a little more, because they always go a little late. And then the following, so that would bring us into 2027. So the fall of 2027, we would like to have we're gonna layer the girls in because we want to vary the ages. So it will take us 3 years from there to have it full. But we'll start putting girls in that house in 2027 if all goes well.
I see.
The way we recruit the scholars, it takes about 6 months for the recruiting process, and we obviously wouldn't begin recruiting anyone until we were sure we had a place for them to go. So if we're finished by this time next year, we'd begin recruiting those girls in next fall.
So you'd start them so they could start school in the fall. You wouldn't try to move them in
we don't move
mid-year.
anybody in the middle, and we really are looking for really specific. The kids really need to have grit. They need to have the academic ability. They need to be in this such a situation that they're really willing to leave their families in order to take advantage of this opportunity. And so we do interview them pretty intensively. They spend a night in the house as a shadow. They shadow at the schools. So we're pretty careful because we never want to have to ask someone to leave once they've come or have them fail in the program. So yeah, we'll be careful about how we fill that house. I'd say, just because how construction goes, I think it'll be 2 years before we've got that really humming.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
I think we'll.
thank you very much.
At this point, we can close the record for public hearing, and now we're on to deliberations. Thoughts of the commission? Commissioner Johnson. There you
Okay,
go.
I just had a question about if we approve this text amendment, how many organizations or properties does this apply to in addition to the applicant in front of us?
I think that's staff.
I can't think of one that it would apply to.
Okay, so this is just for organizations that got this approval prior to 2000 and have not built yet, and so this is a text amendment to a policy amendment to approve just one organization to be able to do this. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we have two things we have to consider. First, the text amendment. And again, part of this is a kind of unusual situation. But this text amendment actually applies to the whole city. So it's conceivable that there could be something out there floating around that we're not aware of. But it also just strictly applies to the child residential care homes. It doesn't apply to any other of the care home requirements. Is that correct?
Correct. And not only that, it's just the child residential care home, R4A district.
Okay. And the R4A really is, if I'm correct in where that district is mapped, it's really the area around really the Fireman's Park neighborhood, which is an area that has a lot of Northwestern student housing to begin with. So it is not a citywide designation. Well, there's only a certain area where the R4A exists. Okay, and then I do have another question. We have some the department recommendations. There are two conditions that are applied, but that really applies to the special use and not the map amendment. Am I correct in that as well?
Not the text amendment, just the special use.
Okay. So let me go through the standards for the text amendment, and no one has any questions about what the language of the text amendment. It seems to be pretty straightforward. The first is whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan as adopted and amended from time to time by the city council. The requested text amendment, it supports basically a neighborhood organization that intends to improve the residential housing stock. I think the other thing that it really does is it takes, reinforces the residential character of that block, which, as I think, most of us who have been around for a long time know is full of what were single family and two flats that have been converted over the years into student housing. So I believe that standard is met, and again, it reinforces the goal of providing a variety of housing options within the community. Second, whether the proposed amendment is compatible with the overall character of existing development in the immediate vicinity of the subject property. Again, this is a residential neighborhood, and the proposed rehabilitation really does reinforce the residential aspects. 3, whether the proposed amendment will have an adverse effect on the value of adjacent properties. Again, the proposed amendment is going to facilitate rehabilitation within this block, and consequently, I think that there's no evidence that the existence of the residential care properties on the block that have been on the block for a number of years have had an adverse impact on property values. And 4, the adequacy of public facilities and services. And, staff notes that they're not aware of any inadequacies. The property is operated in a residential, factor, for residential purposes for decades, if not more than that. So I think that standard is met. So with that, we need a motion to recommend approval of the text amendment. So can someone make that motion?
I move that we positively recommend the zoning text amendment.
Second.
Okay, I think we need a voice vote on that. Or no, a roll call vote on that, I'm sorry.
All right, hold on a second. All right. Commissioner Harris-Furry,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mabadi,
Yes.
Commissioner Mangum,
Yes.
Commissioner Beninchev,
Yes.
and Chair Lindwall.
Yes. With 6 voting in favor and none against, the recommendation to approve the text amendment will go forward to the City Council. And now on to part 2 of this case. Standards of approval for the special use. First, one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. And now that we've adopted the text amendment, then this residential care home would be an appropriate special use. 2, it's in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. One of the in addition to preserving the existing character of that block, this also advances Evanston's housing goals by providing a diversity of housing options within the community. And I think that, the rehabilitation will again improve the long-term longevity of the use of the residential use. Number C, it will not cause a cumulative negative impact when the effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposed type of special use on the city as a whole. In this case, the hope, the hope, but the use has been in effect for a long time. It is not, there have not been any complaints to my knowledge. And again, one of your immediate neighbors wrote a letter supporting the application. And so I think that standard is met. 3, we just did that one, C. So D, it does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. This special use was previously approved, and the fact that there are 3 existing similar facilities on this block, and we have no evidence that property values have declined. The standard is met. It can be adequately served by public facilities and services. This standard is met. Staff has indicated that they have not identified any potential adverse impacts. F, it does not cause undue traffic congestion. The response is, there are 4 existing parking places is that for those 2 properties?
There are 4 garages between 820 and 820.
Yeah, okay. But there's been testimony that the girls living in this facility will not have cars. There's adequate parking on site, so there's no reason to believe that there will be significant traffic congestion as a result of this special use approval. Number G, preserves significant historical and architectural resources. While I don't believe any of these are either in a historic district or identified as landmark properties, the preservation of basically the historic fabric of the neighborhood will be preserved. Therefore, this standard is met. It preserves significant natural and environmental features. This standard is really not applicable, although I presume that part of your renovation will include some landscaping and improvements. So this standard is met. And finally, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it's located and other applicable ordinances, except to the extent that such regulations have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation. The development, the applicant has indicated that the project will comply with all necessary approvals, and you've got DCFS licensing as well, so this standard is met as well. Now, with respect to, staff has recommended 2 conditions that really, the first is that the applicant shall construct the associated improvements to the subject property as described herein, as authorized by the terms of the ordinance in substantial compliance with all applicable city code requirements and the applicant's testimony and presentations at the Land Use Committee, Planning and Development Committee, and City Council. And then the second was the applicant would record the ordinance amending the existing special use with the Cook County Recorder of Deeds, just to make sure everybody's all on the same page. Staff have anything else to add about those particular conditions, which are really pretty routine conditions? Okay, so are the commissioners in agreement with my findings of fact? In that case, we need a motion. So who would like to make the motion? Someone want to?
I move that we accept the special use permit for 824 Gaffield Place.
Well, recommend approval. You want to
Recommend for
recommend approval, and you want to have it include the 2 conditions.
Yes, I move that we recommend for approval the special use at 824 Gaffield with any conditions.
With those 2 conditions that I just read.
Staff conditions.
Yes. All right. All right.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote?
Okay. Commissioner Harris-Furry,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mabadi,
Yes.
Commissioner Mangum,
Yes.
Commissioner Mordenshev,
Yes.
and Chair Lindwall.
Yes. With 6 votes in favor and none opposed, this will be forward to the City Council, and you can work with staff on next steps. And
Chair Lindwall, may I make a small recommendation?
yes.
So we do not deal with, let's say, architectural things for the building. But from time to time, I afford myself to give some recommendations. This is probably the only one of your buildings that you will be making a kind of a mansard roof at the back of the building, which is on the 3rd level. Usually when you do that, these buildings start to look more bulkier, different from the surrounding. ADJOURNMENT is a very reputable company, architectural and design built. Even with the mansard roof, you can make it better using materials, using colors, make the building a little bit lighter, because otherwise it will be a kind of a bit heavy between the other buildings. I would even advise, although this may be a budget issue, if they can make a 3D model of the surrounding and this building, you'll be happier if you know that your remodeling will be better looking. So just a recommendation, once again, it's not formal, but everybody on this committee and you also, we want our city to be beautiful. So, thank you.
A beautiful feed 3D model that we actually have had a lot of fun with. You can fly through it with the camera, so thank you. That's great advice.
Okay. With that, I will close this public hearing, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. The next up on our agenda is discussion of the land use rules and procedures.
All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks. So just to kind of just briefly recap, so we started taking a look at your rules and procedures back at the October 8th Land Use Commission meeting. It had been a while since we updated your rules and procedures. On the October 8th meeting, we, as staff, highlighted some areas of the rules and procedures that we thought needed to be addressed, changed, corrected, etc. We had that discussion with the Land Use Commission, and then at the November 12th meeting, we took some of the feedback from that meeting and presented the commission on that date with a redlined version of the rules and procedures. The Land Use Commission that night adopted a good majority of the changes that were presented after that first go at it. However, they also recommended that some other areas of or some of those same areas of the rules and procedures be fleshed out a little more and provide some more guidance into them. So tonight before you are the rules and procedures, and that were in the packet are the rules and procedures. What is left in red are changes that were made and presented on November 12th, and then any changes, additions, corrections, et cetera, made in blue are things that were corrected or changed or added between the 12th and today. Last time we kind of dove into them kind of starting at the sections that we were working on, had a discussion on them, and then just kind of proceeded forward. We gave the commission a couple of minutes to read through it, and then opened up the discussion. If that works for you, Chair, happy to do that, or what if you'd rather go a different route.
Well, I think that would be helpful. I actually took the time to go through and read all of them, and there were a couple of other points earlier on in the that weren't part of the continuance discussion that I had questions about. The first one is in on page, I guess, 8 or 9 of this. Where we're in Article 3, the membership. After we get through the chair and vice chair, there are commission liaisons. And I don't know, it identifies liaisons to, for example, the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance Subcommittee, which I don't know that exists at this point. And so I'm just wondering if that is a change that ought to be. I don't know if the council has decided we should be liaison to any particular, committee, but that may be something that we should look at.
To my knowledge, that and Megan, maybe you know more than I do since you've been here before, but I don't know if has since been, rescinded, expired, or whatever.
I mean, I don't have a problem with there being an opportunity for liaisons, but I think if we're updating the rules, we ought to see whether or not that is operable.
I think that particular one is probably a holdover from previous years, so we can absolutely go back and take another look at those. And
I do know that there is some interest in still having further conversations about the inclusionary housing ordinance, so I would prefer to leave that one.
Fine, but I mean, I just would look. I mean, at one point when I first joined the commission, there was at that point, Plan Commission liaison to the Economic Development Committee, for example, which I know that the council eliminated that when they were looking at memberships. But I just would if that's going to be the case, I mean, we could say that there should be liaisons as applicable or something like that. But that's one proposal or one suggestion. And then on page 11 of 22, when we're talking about the prospective proposals, which has been in the rules for, they were in the rules before we had amended it. And I think that just kind of, gets into, can we be considering two proposals at the same time? Or is this kind of intended as a review? So I have a question about what the intent of that particular provision is. And then, so I don't know that you can answer that at this point.
Sorry, bear with me here.
That's fine. It was on 11 of 22, or 37 of 110, whichever. It's under Article 4.
Yeah, and we don't even have, I mean, in reading that and assuming the intent is kind of just to it reads as though it's almost to run ideas past, and we don't even have an application type for that.
Yeah, I just
in the zoning ordinance. Megan, I don't know if you know if we've ever acted on that, but because it's not in the zoning ordinance, it's really not enforceable.
It may be something that might be considered when the zoning rewrite happens, but I'm looking at that going, what is this supposed to be?
Yeah, I would almost recommend just striking that entire section, just because, like I said, even if it is in the rules, we don't have an application to be, you know what I mean? There's no process for it in the zoning code, which is the regulating body. So my recommendation would be just to strike that. And
then before we're almost getting to where you want us to be, but
no, it's all good.
Under Article 6, the meetings and public hearings, when it's identifying the reasons a commissioner could participate remotely, it's just, I think we've got C, family or other emergency, semicolon, and I think the or goes down under D.
Yep.
That's just a little typo thing.
No, I appreciate that.
And then really, I'm trying to understand what 3 is supposed to mean. Communications made by the commissioner attending virtually are made concurrently available to the public. What does that just mean, that they're on the Zoom?
Yeah, it means that the communication, basically that communication has to be open between the commission that's in public and the commissioners that are, and then that's aligned with OMA.
Okay, it just,
The same question came up last time too. So
okay. I'm
it's-
sorry I missed
No, no,
the
no.
answer the last time.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant like it is a little confusing the way it reads, but it's just
Okay,
aligned
and
with
then,
OMA.
And then I guess then my other question on section 4, when we're the oath and swearing in, and I guess this starts to kind of get into a question I had when I was reading through. We have people who live within the notice area, be they a property owner or a tenant or a business. They can testify, but then we often have other people who sign up to speak who don't live within the boundary area. So the question, so our practice has been to swear everybody in who wants to speak. But in, considering the presentation and the evidence and who gets to speak, are they treated differently? Should we be treating the people who are making public comment versus testimony differently? And similarly, on our agendas, we always have a place for public comment, and it starts to get confusing as to whether during the public hearing, you've got testimony, and then we often have the people making public comment, and then at the end of the agenda, there's an opportunity for public comment on non-public hearing topics. And is there a way that we can make it clearer for the public? Because, I'm sure others, get questions about, when are we supposed to speak?
So you want to make it more clear for people who are in attendance and being sworn in to speak on an issue that's before the commission on the agenda versus people who are here to speak for something totally unrelated. I think we can address that outside of the rules and procedures. I think we can modify our agenda just to make it more clear, and even just as simple as on our template, adding the public comment portion at the end and adding some language on there. Or we can work on the chair's script too at the very beginning, just to make it clear then, not everybody's going to read the agenda at the end of the day. I think we can keep that separate from the rules, though, if that works for you.
That's fine. All right, so I think now,
And we'll work on changing that.
yeah, and then, again, just in 5, when you've got the list of who gets to speak, with respect to the text amendments, comp plan, and other plans, there's no mailed notice and the testimony from all. Is it just residents or is it interested parties? Do we want to, everybody gets to speak? Because, and again, we've had instances where you're having a text amendment and people from outside the community to get up and speak, or organizations. So I'm just
I would be, it might turn to legal just a little bit on that one, but I would be concerned with what state law has to say about limiting public participation like that. I completely understand where you're going with it.
My question is, right now it says testimony from all residents accepted. I'm just saying, should that be broader than just residents? It's on the table.
Under section 5, right?
Yes, yes.
So for text amendments, comprehensive plan, and other plans.
It's just a
wording. I mean, the thing about it is that for those types specifically, I mean, even though a text amendment, such as the case, I mean, like we just heard tonight, really only affects that zoning district, which is in the limited area. At the end of the day, you're amending a city-wide regulating.
Yeah. And I agree we should allow anybody who wants to comment to testify.
Yeah.
and present evidence, but I'm just saying that, I guess it's kind of a moot point, but, whether or not you accept it is it limited to residents, or could businesses or somebody else get up and?
Yeah.
It's just a wording thing.
Gotcha.
It's not critical to our discussion necessarily.
Got it.
Okay, I think that's all I had. Does anyone else have anything from the beginning? And other than that, I think we can go with your walking us through.
I'd like to comment on a couple things that we were just mentioning, and then I'm not sure if I have something. I have this also this email that you handed out from Matt that I want you let me know when you think. Can I comment on that now, or do we come to that later?
We can do that now if you want.
Okay, well, I'll come to that momentarily. I wanted to go back to the Article 6. Hang on one second. So when we were talking about commissioners prevented from attending meetings because, this is something that was on my mind last time we talked about it, and we have here family or other emergency or unexpected child care obligations. What about family obligations, unexpected family obligations? I mean, what if I had, for example, I couldn't attend because I had to take care of one of my parents for something, but I wanted to remote in? I mean, you can think of examples where it might not necessarily be an emergency, but I can't attend physically, but I want to attend. So is there a way to articulate these examples more accommodative to that?
I think that is a question for the law department or legal representative. I believe these are from the state statute, are they not?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Lindell. Catherine Penrose, Assistant City Attorney. Yes, those are mandated by the Open Meetings Act, and the reasons for virtual attendance are limited, given the desire for meetings to be open whenever possible. So the state legislature has limited the reasons for virtual participations in meetings by public bodies.
I see. So these cannot be changed or amended or added, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, then the conversation is closed.
I mean, I know you were just using it as an example. I get that, but I mean, in my mind, so there's 2C, which is a family or other emergency. I mean, that to me reads pretty broad. I mean, if you had a family emergency related to needing to go take care of.
If it's not an emergency, though, that's what I was saying. Family or other emergency. If it said family matters or other emergency would be. But it sounds like there's no room here. This is what it's you're basically plucking it from one document, placing it into another is what it sounds like. So
I can review to make sure it's verbatim. I don't know if you've checked it recently. I know that probably doesn't go into effect until January, but there have been some additions made to that list. I'm not sure any of them are applicable commonly, but I know that there were additions added to it very recently.
Okay. Well, that'd be great. Thank you. Moving to the email that you handed out from Matt Rogers, focusing on the item 10, Section 8, commissioners shall only request conditions that they believe would allow them to vote in the positive to approve specific standard for project. Conditions are, anyway, I don't need to read. It's all there. You have it. I've talked to a couple alders about this, and this is an interesting situation where there's a political tone to this, where if people get upset when you vote in favor or make an amendment in favor of something and then vote against it. It feels like it's underhanded is the kind of mild version of what I was told. that it's not nice, it's wrong, it's this or that. And I wonder if that is a fair assessment, because if you, first of all, by making a recommendation in the positive, if you have to vote in positive, you basically voted then. Second, in advance of everyone else. Secondly, if you believe that a bill or a project would get approved, that you won't be voting for it, but you wanted to improve it in some way that you felt would be appropriate, but you're not going to support the project at large, but you don't want to abandon every aspect of the project that you might want to see discussed. It seems like you can't do that with this if you're adhering to this kind of thinking where if you have to vote in the positive. Because I could think of plenty of examples where there are things I'd like to see changed that the project doesn't quite get me there, but those changes would be better. And that seems to be lost if the only way we're able to address any proposed changes is on the assumption that we would also be voting absolutely in the positive. So I don't know if that's a good rule for us to.
Yeah,
to have.
I had a similar concern, and one of the things that I just kind of wrote down, at the end of section 10 would be a commissioner offering a condition related to only one standard need not vote in favor of the project if he or she believes that other standards remain unmet. Because I mean, if you could, I mean, because the point is.
Right.
If you're not going to vote in favor of a project because you believe that standards are not met, it may be possible to offer a condition that would allow one of them to be met,
Right.
but not,
Right.
and still vote against the project.
Right, exactly. That's great, because then if, say, there's two standards, one standard getting met and one not getting met, if it goes through, at least you've improved it by that one standard that you promoted.
But you're saying, though, the conditions that are being added in this scenario would be added to at least address a standard, not necessarily all of it.
Right,
And that's kind of, so if you, so, and for the record, just we're looking at section 10.
Yeah.
But that section in particular is titled Standards for Approval. So that section really is dealing with, how you're making your findings on the case that those standards of approval are being met.
Well, I mean, but it is tying our hands on, because if you wanted to make some recommendations to improve something that you believe will pass that you're not in support of, but you like to improve it, inside the boundaries of the lane that we're allowed to stay in, how do we get there then?
Well, and there may be.
But if you're going to add those conditions, though, you might be ultimately voting against the project because maybe there's one standard that just absolutely isn't met, but you're making a motion to add a condition to meet another standard for the project. I think we're getting to the same thing, and that's how this was intended, anyways, to be read.
Some of these standards are somewhat
example.
subjective because it's an opinion. When you talk about will it negatively impact the neighbor, that's an opinion. It's not empirically provable. It's an opinion. So if you had two standards, of which one of them you were addressing and one of them you knew you didn't believe you believe the project, short of completely saying I want to propose changing the entire project, which you can't do, you would be living with a standard that you can't meet, but maybe you're making it better over here with some other standard. And I don't have that standard in my hand. But do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think the other part of this was some of the standards, there may be like 3 or 4 reasons why you don't think a single standard is met. And you could offer an amendment or a condition that might address 2 of those reasons, but you'd still, it's still conceivable that with respect of a standard, even if you amended and added 2 conditions that allow that standard to be partially met, you still might find yourself in a position to vote against it. That's, on that standard. I mean, it's because we don't have, standards that are, it's either often a yes or no. I mean, because there's usually kind of some, 2 or 3 factors that weigh into.
I mean, I think our job is to follow the rules by which we are mandated to follow the tests of the questions that we ask, whether the project meets them or not.
Right.
But before we ask those questions, we're trying to make this project as best of a project as we can in whatever fashion we individually deem is necessary. So I think that being able to make changes to the project and say this is better, but it's not good enough, I think that's a thing that we need to be able to do.
And yeah. We can keep looking into it. I just, I feel that without having some guidance in this section, it kind of opens up the floodgates to, and not just you guys, but commissions in the future to just add condition after condition after condition after condition, while at the same time voting to recommend denial on a project, and we're over what's the word I'm trying to search for? We end up with a project that goes to city council that's got 20, 25 different conditions coming from different opinions on the matter, when at the end of the day it probably should have just been a vote on a denial because it doesn't meet the standards. That's just my opinion. And then it also, our city council changes all the time too.
You're saying that a project comes in and a commissioner recommends some changes to meet condition X, and the project, and that commissioner votes against it, but it gets approved and sent to the city council, that you think that has potential for creating excessive layering of conditions? Is that what I heard?
Potentially.
Yeah, well, it could happen right now.
Well, if you look at the staff conditions, just look at 605 Davis Street that had 20-some conditions recommended by staff.
They were making conditions up on the fly. Let's do this, let's do that.
But I think the point is that we want to make sure, have these rules written so that you're not having a commissioner willy-nilly try to attach various conditions to a project he'd never vote for. But I think that it's important. Usually you have there's usually 2 or 3 standards that people feel are not met. If you've got just one standard that people that the commission is concerned with, you can craft conditions that may address that standard. That the goal should be to get standard conditions that achieve a positive vote, but that's not always going to happen. And I agree with Commissioner Mabadi that you want to make the project as the best it can be, and certain conditions may be more likely to bring that to fruition. And I think it's important for the city council to know what those concerns are.
And after last month's discussion too, we talked about this a lot, but I thought kind of met some middle ground a little bit. We were changing, and that's expressed here, but we're changing words from shall to should, kind of writing them so that they were more from the positive tone. At the end of the day, commissioners can do what they're going to do and add conditions, but this was intended to just provide more guidance on that.
The condition being suggested should be made in the positive, so it's always, in sync with everyone else's way of speaking. We're speaking same condition language, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's the question's about whether or not we are now compelled to vote in the positive. That's my concern.
Gotcha. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's why I suggested, adding an extra little bit of clarifying language.
And I forgot, Chair, did you say you had prepared?
Well, I have written it down. I will hand it to you.
Okay,
But I will read,
no problem.
I will read it again. At the end of that, I would just say a commissioner offering a condition related to one standard need not vote in favor of a project if he or she believes that other standards remain unmet. So.
And that would just be at the end of this.
Because, the point is, if you're adding, if you only have a problem with one standard and you believe that standard can be fully met, then you're going to vote in the positive. Going to vote in the positive.
Yeah.
If, again, as I was suggesting, if, a standard kind of has 2 or 3 reasons why the standard's not met, you may offer a condition that will allow, take care of one of those, but you still may have an objection to other parts of that standard.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion there.
Would you, well, I guess I would first ask the commission if other commissioners had more to discuss as it relates to section 10.
Commissioner Mangum.
Hi. Yes. So I would suggest after the word affirmatively in section 10, I would remove all of the blue language because I feel like it limits the conditions that commissioners can add to a particular project. And I do agree with Commissioner Mabadi about, because the vote is, the commission as a whole, and if one commissioner adds these different conditions and the rest of the panel approves the project, at least the project should go along and the conditions can be added and it will make a project better. And I do agree with the language that the chair just provided. I think that should be added and the current blue language should be removed.
So which language do you want to see removed?
In section 10, where it begins, a commissioner should only request conditions and all of that should be removed. And then the language that you propose should be placed there instead.
So chair's language would begin, and then it would go conditions. After her statement, you'd then proceed with conditions are meant to aid, et cetera, et cetera? Is that what you're saying?
So, Chair, can you repeat your language again, please?
Okay, but all right, so we have the original language that's in black. And then you're suggesting that a commissioner should only request conditions that they believe would allow them to vote in the positive to approve a specific standard for a project. You want to delete that sentence, right?
I would like to delete that, and then also the sentence immediately following. So everything in blue that's underlined there, I would suggest removal, and then the language that you proposed should be added instead.
Okay. Well, I think that the second set, conditions are meant to aid in preventing or minimizing adverse impacts upon other property or improvements. I think that sentence is okay. Just because it explains what the intent of a condition is.
The thing is that I would support her statement. It seems like this second sentence of 810 is a limitation what the condition should be only. The condition could be for many, many more different things. Not only to prevent certain influence, let's call it, on adjacent properties or public services. It could be many more things. So this sentence seems to limit what the condition could be. I would prefer to leave this open.
Okay.
Simply without this sentence, the second one.
If I could add a little bit of context to that second sentence, which was requested by, I want to say Commissioner Puctel. In the past, there's been concern about some conditions being added that had very little to do with the proposed project. So that was more of a making sure that if you have a condition, it actually immediately addresses a concern that the project itself creates or minimizes the adverse impacts of a project. So that's where that one came from. So you're not like proposing that an applicant has to add something to a part of the city that has absolutely nothing to do with the project. Or
I understand, but maybe a broader definition.
What is the name of the group of questions that we ask? What is that entitled as? The
Standards of approval?
standards of approval. So why don't we say something like the commissioner should only request conditions that they believe would mitigate deficits in standards of approval? Because that's kind of what our job is, isn't it?
Right, yes, that's fine.
My pen doesn't work. Someone else is going to have to write it down.
Yeah, we got it.
You got a record.
We got you.
That'd be good to add chair's language after that.
I think I hesitate to remove all the about, this should allow you to vote in the positive, because I think it's trying to prevent bad faith actions of just layering conditions upon conditions so that then it doesn't even really make sense for the project to happen. So I do hesitate to remove some of that language just to keep, so that we can, keep the mindset on that we are trying to get to a place where the project could happen. So I think that language is helpful as it is.
Commissioner Johnson.
I agree with Madam Chair, what you and Commissioner Mabadi recommended. I think that as written, this is too constricting, and I fear that this will lead to more projects getting denied. Because if I'm on the fence about a project and I recommend a condition, if I say there are a handful of standards that aren't met, and I say I'm against this project, and I'm one of the nays, and there's some yays, and then some people in the middle that are just kind of on the fence. And if I recommend a condition to improve the project, I think it'll make it better, but it's still not going to bring me to judge it as meeting all the standards for approval. That condition could help some of the other commissioners get to a state of approval. And so being very constrictive with this language, in my hypothetical situation I just laid out, I wouldn't be able to do that. And it would increase the chances that projects would not get approved. And that's another kind of angle to this, which I don't want this constrictive language, because we're all here to make suggestions to improve projects, improve them to the extent that we personally can vote for them. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But improve them to the extent that, other members of this body can vote for them. Well, I think that's a valuable option to have.
I would agree with that. So I think we need more work on this particular section. Do you have the direction you think you need?
I think so, unless, the only other option would be, if you guys, you could make a motion to strike certain parts and add the verbiage that you had, or I'm just throwing it out there as an option, and then, but at the end of the day, we'll have to come back probably with other parts anyways.
Yeah.
So I will just kind of forewarn, we have some busy agendas coming up in the next couple of months too. So just
Yeah, it'd be nice to get some of this sorted out.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
So we've got my sentence that I want to add at the end. We have a suggestion that we eliminate the language highlighted in blue, and then you had come up with some alternative language, which we haven't written down, but hopefully is in the tape. The law department liked to weigh in.
I apologize for the interruption. I just would strongly caution against voting on individual sections of
Tonight?
the rules tonight.
Okay, that makes sense to
Lesson
me.
learned from City Council trying to work through their rules at the same time, because in the event that you later decide you want to change what you've already approved, it can be a procedural nightmare. So I would
right.
strongly recommend against
All right.
finalizing anything at this point
So-
in a piecemeal fashion.
I think, so the general, Commissioner.
Would it be better for the chair to give direction to city staff to make changes and then bring them back in an omnibus fashion so we can reconsider them? Yes.
We will do that at the end of this discussion.
Okay, great.
And I would be happy to meet with staff so we can go through some of these if that is helpful.
No problem.
Or not, depending on what will be most helpful. All right, but generally the direction is that we've got to replace the language in blue with something that is more open to discussion. And then apparently people seem to like my statement, so I will give you that language. Let's see. Anyone have anything else offhand? I've got a couple of things since we're kind of toward the end of this. I'm trying to understand what section 12 means in there. Where we're asking people to provide new information, continue. I'm just trying to understand what that's supposed to be. And this is in the current rules, I believe, so I don't get it.
For section 12,
Yes.
commission action?
Yeah.
That, I mean, the way that I'm reading it is essentially what happens after, well.
Is it what I say, applicant go see city staff and they'll work out next steps? I mean, this doesn't.
It's really,
It doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah.
I think it's contemplating that at the end of certain hearings, you may decide for whatever reason that you want more information and you want to continue or hold till the next meeting, further discussion, and you may ask the applicant to bring additional information for that discussion at a different date.
Except that it comes after we've closed the public hearing. I mean, this section just.
It's in the wrong area. It's in the wrong place.
It doesn't make sense, so it
Yep.
needs to be thought about.
I agree. Or
deleted.
Moved or deleted. Yep.
Something. And then finally on the section 9 on the recommending votes. This kind of gets into that discussion about written findings of fact and whether I think we decided that the minutes and the motions suffice, or there was some discussion about starting a practice where we have written, separate written findings of fact at the end. And under the recommending votes.
Section 3, recommending votes?
Yes.
Okay.
And this also has section 4, which gets into that alternate proposals again, which may or may not be relevant.
So the question for section 3 is when the commission is making the recommendation, do they actually need to be like do your finding do you actually need to put your findings of fact in writing? Is that the question?
Yeah,
or does
'cause
the record in the minutes?
Right. And I think we had discussed making
Yeah.
sure that the motions, when they're written into the minutes, include restating the conditions that have been approved.
Yep.
And then again, the reasons why,
Yep.
the standard is met.
And we can certainly change our SOP practices internally to make sure that
That's what we had kind of discussed, but I just wanted to make sure that
Yep.
that is somehow clear in our rules,
Yep.
so that there's not confusion. Okay, so we've kind of dealt with the end of this. Now we're back to the procedures and the continuances, I think, are the big,
Yeah, section 6.
yes. And the question, the way this is written, it looks like the applicant could make and clearly the applicant needs to be able to request a continuance at some point, although you certainly wouldn't want him. I'm wondering if that should be reordered so that you start with the public for, the members of the public requesting a continuance, and then the applicant could later, because this sort of reads like the applicant can get up and present his case, and there'd be testimony, and then suddenly the applicant would want a continuance.
I don't.
So, it's just.
There's also instances where, for a case we had just recently where there is no public comment and the applicant just came to the podium and requested a continuance there too.
Oh, okay. So the applicant can request a continuance. The members of the public can request a continuance if they're within the notice area.
Yep.
Either
And property owners within the notice boundary, and in both of those instances, the motion shall be granted per the code.
right.
And then a person with a legal interest in real property within the notification boundary could have a continuance granted, but it's not guaranteed, and that's aligned with the code. It may be granted if it's voted by the commission and carried by a simple majority.
Wasn't that
That's just the people with legal interest, though.
Right. And one of the things in reading this, we start with, there's a kind of a difference. We're talking about, let's see, on the top of page 14, it says any property owner within the notification boundary for said case shall have the right to request one continuance during, and I'm wondering if we should, rather than saying public comment period, we should be saying public testimony period, because we've got, again, getting, there's confusion about whether it's public comment, because everybody, we're in a place where people can get up and make public comment about anything at pretty much any public meeting. And this is the testimony portion.
Well, but it's of the hearing for, I get your point.
Yeah.
It's of the hearing for that case, though, but that's an easy.
It's, I just think, because then we've got and should we be treating the people with, within the notice boundary separately than the people who get up and just want to comment on who live outside in terms of testimony? 'Cause
Our recommendation last time was to essentially, really at the end of the day, the best way to correct this that we see is with the code rewrite, because it's really the code that's dictating only property owners shall be granted only one, but even that's a little vague in the language. And so our recommendation last time was let's do our best to just align this with the code, have persons with legal interest, they're afforded an opportunity here. It's just different than a property owner. And then we can have this discussion later on with the zoning code rewrite. This, along with many other standards we talked about last time, wanting to address too in the code rewrite.
Go ahead. You can finish. I was just going to, before we went much farther down the waiting for the zoning, and we have not had a chance to touch base, so this is going to sound a little strange, but we've discussed, we've talked about it a bit in the law department, and we had, after reviewing the draft, the continuances section, we had some ideas that may not have been considered yet, or don't seem to have been considered yet. The code requires that property owners within the boundaries get one continuance. That's what it currently says. There's nothing about applicants getting a continuance. There's nothing about residents or business owners getting a continuance. To prevent the problem of property owner A shows up at the very first one and wants their by right continuance, property owner B shows up at the continued and wants to continue it further. One idea may be to draft the rules in a way I'm going to discuss in a minute, that in a way, but at the same time request a referral to change the code, that section of the code, so that the property owners who have a by right continuance must present that at the initial hearing. So you can still leave in the discretion on the part of the Land Use Commission to grant an additional one later on. You can always have that discretion, but you could put in a referral to change the code so that that initial, that the continuances that are by right need to come at the very first hearing. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be able to, you could write your rules that way now. You obviously wouldn't be able to enforce that until the code is amended, but I think you probably could find council members who would be quite willing to make that referral. That's something we can certainly discuss. But that was one idea as a way to prevent the chaining of continuances along the line, but still keeping that right of property owners to have a continuance. It is supposed to be in writing under the code. I know that there was some discussion about how it's often not in writing. It may be more important in a situation where you might have multiple, if you're going to say it has to be at the initial hearing, that there might be multiple people, that they should definitely put it in writing so that you have a firm record of the individuals who have already made their by right request for a continuance. Along those same sort of lines, there's a couple scenarios in here, both for the applicant's right for the continuance in the rules and for the property owners within the boundary, both of which are saying the motion that they're by right, they are granted. I might suggest that you tweak this language so that the motion that you want to vote on by roll call or voice vote is not on whether or not the continuance should be granted, because that is a by right thing that you cannot, I mean, if you would be in an equivalent of a constitutional crisis if you had 5 votes against in that situation. But what the Land Use Commission already has discretion to do per the code is to set the date for that thing. And that could be what the vote is on in those scenarios where it's by right. There then needs to be a motion for the continuance at X date by X members of the public. And the vote could be on that aspect of it so that you would still have a formal vote, but it wouldn't be a vote on whether or not to grant a continuance that you don't have the discretion to deny. That also gives you an additional chance to put the names on the record of the people who have actually already shown up to make their request for a continuance. And the only other suggestion that the law department would make is to change those with a legal interest in in property within the boundaries to just say residents or business owners. Legal interest in property
could be anything.
It's by no means a bright line, and so I think just residents or business owners, and that it covers, I believe, what you want it to cover. It's also just easier for the public to understand. So that was our suggestion. I'd be happy to reduce any of that to writing if anyone thinks it would be helpful.
I think that makes sense because, and I agree. I know there's, Commissioner Puchtel was asking why it needs to be in writing. I think one of the other reasons that the written request is appropriate is just so you have the contact information and you know for sure that the individual making the continuance request is within the notice area. So perhaps kind of one of the things that you can, that we can do is to have a form for continuance requests.
It helps us communicate with them and get their presentations, make sure they understand the process correctly, and
or whatever
absolutely, yeah.
So I
agree.
think that the written request is important, but maybe that's something that you could develop a little online form that could be filled out so that or so the public knows what's required, and you can have the little optional reason for the for the continuance, although that's clearly not required at this point.
I brought this up last time, and I'm just wondering if there's anything within the code that's preventing us from merging together property owner and the residents and the business owners. I know right now the legal interest in real property is just by simple majority, but I just think that, as I said last time, like everyone should have that right if you're in the area. I just don't think ownership is guaranteed anymore. We have a lot of renters in the city or business owners, and I don't know why they would be a separate category of allowing a continuance versus a property owner. I just think those should be equitable in how they're handled here.
The code currently uses property owner, but that is also in the very same blurb in the code everywhere that you could potentially add the limiting language of that the by right request is going only for the first hearing. So the section that I was discussing earlier about potentially seeking a referral to amend in the code is the very same one that says property owner. So if that's something that the commission was interested in, they could certainly do that.
But the question was, though, potentially could a code amendment not be so restrictive to just property owners? Could it include?
Right, sure. You could. I'm just saying it can all be. It's the same section. So if you wanted to seek to amend that.
One of the concerns, though, is right now the property owner applies to who gets mailed the notice. I'm not sure that we have mailing information for whoever the tenant is and or business owners even necessarily. So that's kind of, I think, why the code is written the way it is now. But we've got certainly instances where you've got co-ops around town, and the notice goes to the the corporation, and while the people who live in those co-ops clearly have an ownership interest of sorts, it's not, they're not listed on the tax bill.
I agree. Whether it's we look at it sooner via a referral or we look at it later on with the full code rewrite, it's a little more complex than just changing that simple language, because we have to the chair's point, the code requires the notice that gets sent to property owners. And that changes the dynamic of who gets those notices. So it would involve a holistic look at who we're trying to get to in the code. But I would agree there's inequities in it.
As it sits right now, do we have to have a named person when we're giving notice?
Yes.
So maybe if, when we're speculating upon how we might change this, we could have, resident at, 1112 Maple, Unit 1, resident at 1112 Maple, Unit 2. That would be the way to provide notice if you wanted to give notice to residents. I kind of, I was first listening to what Luke was saying here about giving equitable access, and I think, on one hand, I think about the risk associated with the conversation, and there is a lot more risk for an owner than a renter that's associated, economic risk, when we're talking about these topics here. At the same time, there's life risk that directly affects a tenant differently than the guy who may own the building that lives 20 miles away. So I do recognize the need to be equitable in terms of giving access. So we might need to figure out the correct verbiage when we're doing this to be able to be accommodative to that concern.
But as I'm understanding for our matters right now, this doesn't matter, right? That will be later. We can't make this change now to combine those two paragraphs. That will be later in the code discussions. Is that what I'm understanding?
It would involve a much more holistic review of the zoning code, but theoretically we could do it two ways. It could come as a referral, and we'd get it done theoretically sooner, or we could wait until the larger code rewrite and have the full discussion during that, and then and include it with the zoning code.
Do we have an idea of when we're going to begin climbing that mountain?
We're waiting for the hopeful adoption of Envision Evanston, hopefully early 2026, and then we can hopefully start putting an RFP out for a new consultant.
It may be helpful to kind of just reorganize this section a little bit to make it clear that there are essentially three groups who can request a continuance. You've got the property owner, you've got the applicant, and you've got these business owners and residents within the notification area. And it might be, helpful to kind of preference, start that continuance section identifying the groups that can do that. And then you can say, there are, the following provisions, apply to each group. And because the goal really is to try to get all of the people who want to request continuances identified at the beginning of the process, so and so that those continuance requests can be consolidated into one future meeting. And it's not always going to happen because, we could certainly have an instance where, the applicant makes his presentation, the public gets up and says, we've got lots of questions, we want a continuance. And, and then it may be one or more property owners, and then you may have one or more business owners. And you want to try to get all of those people identified at that first hearing, if possible. But it's also possible then that based on whatever testimony happens at this continued public hearing from the property owner, the public, may then entail, mean that the applicant then wants another public hearing. So we then have two continuances because the applicant's continuance and the property's owner's continuance may, they probably don't need to be consolidated into one meeting. I mean, we kind of had that situation kind of with the 605 Davis project, but trying to organize it, because the goal is to try to get all of the continuances identified early. You want to get as much public testimony as you can early, but you don't want to repeat the testimony. Although we clearly have people who don't that speak at multiple meetings, and it's really kind of hard. I suppose I could be, more forceful and say, you spoke at the last hearing, you don't get to talk anymore. But I mean, I think that's not how we do things here.
And that's kind of what we were trying to intending to do with what's in the packet right now, is kind of outline the fact that property owners within the boundary, they have one continuance, but an applicant could also have a continuance too. So really honing in on, there really shouldn't be more than 2 continued meetings, but then there is the sentence or 2 written in blue that gives the commission the ability to decide if another continuance should be granted or not, but it's not a given. So that's
I think that we need to kind of reorganize this section so that is clearer.
Got it. We can
just
do that. And I think even Commissioner Puctel, I think this was the section where in his comments he said maybe a table would be more helpful. So I agree.
Or at least
that shouldn't be a problem.
Numbered sections.
And then also we want to make sure that we're aligned with legal.
Yes. That would be good. I'm not sure that, and the reality is that all of these things, if you've got a controversial kind of situation, it's hard to be, you kind of have to play it by ear a little bit. So I think that having the flexibility that, we can, as a commission, vote to grant another continuance if something is clearly needs it. Or maybe that's kind of where that section about it, if we decide that there's more information that needs to be gathered, maybe that's where that we didn't know quite what to do with it. Maybe that's kind of where that sort of fits in, is with the continuances in these complicated cases. Because for the most part, most of the applications are fairly straightforward. So that's just a thought.
I do have concerns about the additional, we can decide if additional continuances are requested. I think, similar to Matt Rogers' comments of, will we just get stuck in this never-ending continuance cycle and never get to the end, to a vote taking place? So is there a way, to allow more if necessary, but also somehow limit it so it's just not an ongoing people continuing to ask for continuances that we never get to the end of the hearing?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think then, at the end of the day, that's kind of at you guys' discretion. If you want to put a hard line in your rules and procedures, I feel like, so long as the legal rights that the code allows are being granted, you can essentially squash it in your rules and procedures. And
I think that what we need to do, because members of the public actually do read our rules, probably more carefully than we do at times. I think it's important to explain what the intent is. And the intent is to move cases through as efficiently and expeditiously as possible, making sure that everyone has an opportunity to, make their case both for or against a project. And, maybe if you kind of start, continuances are intended to allow, more careful deliberations or whatever you want to say at the beginning of that. So you explain what the purpose of the the continuance really is all about. Might be helpful.
I have a question. Have we, I've been here a little over a year. Have we, do we have examples of, just rolling continuances, this never-ending vortex that we never get out of? Do we have any recollection of that ever actually? So
It has happened in the past, but it's been
Not the recent past, yeah.
it's been a number of years since that was.
So maybe we just don't worry about that then. Until let's not take aspirin before we have a headache. I think at this point.
No, I think it's really a matter of just making sure it's clear, because I think everyone has been very good about where continuance is requested, being prepared to make their case, and we certainly, where we discovered that, we hadn't done the shall and the may quite right, and yet we allowed the extra time for that.
So just so I'm clear, the guidance is to essentially strike what was added in blue related to additional continuance requests and leave it, well, we're going to make changes, but essentially strike that paragraph. In the event that additional continuances are requested at the continued hearing, the continuance shall be made in writing, read into the record, and a motion to continue shall be called by any member of the commission, seconded, and a roll call vote shall be called. The continuance may be granted if the motion carries by a simple majority.
I think maybe we probably should be silent at this point.
Right,
on
okay.
that. Would you, others agree? Commissioner Mangum?
Wait, so you're saying strike that paragraph?
Yeah.
I think we should keep it.
Okay.
I think flexibility is important here. And then also, there was a mention of having, the continuance at the initial meeting. And there was a mention of property owner A and property owner B. What if the second owner doesn't receive notice of it and they don't find out until after at a subsequent meeting? So I think anyone by right should be able to come in and ask for continuance in writing.
Okay, and then they'd have to explain why they didn't get notice, or they were in Europe for a month or whatever.
I think it's important to be flexible.
To what end?
Well, we just mentioned.
How many continuances?
Go ahead.
I mentioned it. I know I brought it up. Like, does it happen? But I'm just thinking both sides of this argument that it's not likely, but when it does happen, it happens. So it's a lot, because if you have in other words, I think leaving it in allows us to say, hold on a second, hit the brakes. We've already dealt with this. We don't need to keep having redundant continuances. We have to be able to protect the course of business somewhere along the lines. If it does, we need I don't have a good metaphor for this at the moment, but we need to be able to control like how many continuances there are. At the same time, take the presumption that we're not in a rolling continuance environment. I think those are two realities that we should be able to verbalize in some fashion. No?
Well, someone mentioned earlier that this hasn't happened for several years, so it's not a common occurrence, and I guess it should be up to the commission whether or not a continuance should be granted.
But I'm confused if it's even able to happen, because this is new, and what I recall from like 605 Davis, when people requested a continuance, then right after those, like, we shut like it was closed, so I thought no more continuances could happen, and we're saying, you know, one continuance can happen. So under our current rules, can we even get into a situation where more are requested?
Sure. I mean, you know, if we open the public hearing and, you know, people present request a continuance and somebody new shows up who's within the notice area at the subsequent public hearing, then conceivably they could ask for a continuance. And if they're a property owner, it shall be granted. So what we're trying, and in part, I think, you know, if it shall be granted, we can't very well close the door on continuances anyway. It's really more kind of trying to, in our rules, set the expectations for what's expected. And I think, you know, we've got to have the ability to be flexible in our rules so that if something like that does happen, I mean, we don't have if a property owner shows up at a continued public hearing and asks for a continuance and they weren't at the other meeting, I'm not sure we have the ability to say no, do we?
Not currently, but that's exactly the referral that I was talking about, changing that language so that by right continuance has to be made at the first meeting. You could certainly leave the land uses up to the land use commission's discretion to, if someone was out of the country and they show up, you have that ability, at least the way the blue language has it, to say, in this circumstance, even though this is all assuming that the code has changed.
Right.
But, you know, in these circumstances, even though you weren't at the initial hearing, we're going to nevertheless allow the continuance because you've explained to us why you weren't able to do that. But that is, again, contingent on that limit being put into the code because right now it's not there.
And it's not there, which means that they would automatically be granted a continuance. So right now, it is possible that a group of property owners could chain it out, and we couldn't stop it because of the way the code is written.
But to that point, and this may throw a wrench in the discussion or not, in the code, we do have some language with regards to mailed notices where it talks about the failure of delivery of the notice doesn't invalidate the hearing, and the notice being sufficient for that initial hearing. So, I mean, to the very specific example of someone saying, I was out of the country and I didn't get the notice, like where, I'm wondering if that particular section with regards to the mailed notices would come into play and how we go about, I don't want to say like proving whether or not someone got the notice or not.
So I think we need to think about this some more. I mean, the reality is that we're talking about protecting the rights of renters, landowners, people in the specific boundaries, and we have to also protect the applicants' right too. And the applicants here seeking some remedy for something, and if we have the public just rolling this person over and over and over and over on continuances, which we haven't had for years, yes, but we should, as a arbiter of what our rules are going to be, anticipate that and put something that gives us the lever to reach to when we need it, and not use it just to use it, like at the discretion of the chair, because we would respect the chair's wisdom and experience to make that right choice at the moment that it's necessary. But until then, let the people speak. So that kind of balance is what I'm hoping to see that we could figure out. I don't have the verbiage at the moment to share, but that's the thinking. That's why I think we need to wait a little bit.
Okay. Have we covered all of the sections you want us to
The
address?
other section that we had comments on was section 5, related to public comment, testimony, and cross-examination. I don't know if the commission had some feedback on this section.
Section,
Sorry, this would be on page 42 of the packet.
oh, yes.
And this essentially provided guidance as to, general issues around decorum during cross-examination, providing some guidance for the chair to be able to direct cross-examination without acting as sort of a third party, like a communicator in there. And we talked about it last time. I mean, some of these, at the end of the day, it's we're not going to be able to be fact finders on the fly, but this is intended just to kind of provide some guidance both for applicants and anybody else involved during cross-examination, and then again, sort of empowering the chair to be able to direct the conversation. And then the final paragraph has to deal with the issue around designated speakers for large groups.
Which is somewhat problematic because in our, in practice, you have the designated group and the speaker, and then, you've got all these individuals that say, well, I support this group, but I'm not really a member of it. So, trying to limit who's speaking we can have the guidance, but the practical reality is anybody who signed up is going to speak.
Yeah, it may not be, to your point, it may not be 100% just like anything else, but, there's a little bit more guidance in here now. And then it also gives them a little bit more time too. So it only requires them to give us 24-hour notice for that designated speaker too. So I think that's a positive.
Yeah, I think that's good. And then, up at the very beginning of that page, it's in the section 4 at the end where we say the applicant is limited to a presentation of no more than 20 minutes, and the question becomes, we've had that happen where the applicant just keeps talking, and you don't want to cut them off necessarily, but we might want to say unless the chair, grants additional time, because we had members of the public who were upset because the applicant was talking too much.
So at the top of the page, where it says the applicant shall be limited to a presentation no more than 20 minutes, and then add.
Unless granted additional time, but I'd like to have them keep it to 20 minutes.
Yeah. And I realize the challenges during that hearing too, but some of it is upon the chair to manage that, and I'm not I'm just saying that for practicality's sake.
I think I did ask if they were about done, but
that was not directed personally to you.
No,
just
that's
general
fine.
statement.
But it will happen to other chairs, I'm sure.
Be at the discretion of the chair. Just add that to extend. Yeah.
Most people are pretty good about that, but that happens with the other people, presenting as well. So, I didn't have any particular issues. Does anybody else have any comments on that section? All right, so I think what the suggestion was that we move to direct staff and I guess the chair to continue working on the rules to bring them back at our next meeting. Is that kind of what would somebody care to make that motion? Commissioner Mangum, go ahead.
I make a motion to have the city staff and the chair to continue to review the Land Use Commission's rules and procedures.
To bring back it.
And bring them back to a future meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I think we can do this with a voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then the last major item on our agenda is we have the adoption of the 2026 meeting calendar. Everyone have a chance to look at that? Issues? I presume you looked at school vacations and stuff?
Yes. Other holidays we looked at, as well as the District 65 and District 202
Okay.
spring breaks.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the calendar?
I make a motion to approve the 2026 Land Use Commission schedule or calendar.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I think then we're into public comment. We have no members of the public. I presume there was an opening on Zoom.
No, there's not been any.
And then I do have one thing. According to our rules, we were supposed to have elected a chair and vice chair at this meeting, but that was not on the agenda, so presumably that will be on our January agenda. So if anyone is dying to be chair or vice chair, let me know. All right, can we have a motion to adjourn? I presume staff doesn't have anything else they want to talk to us about. Okay, motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.